I'm going to be talking about my season 1 of Just Rest wrap. I'm going to be talking about some big announcements. I'm going to be talking about getting you involved in the creation of my next episode of Hi, Marcia. So good to see you. I am giving it a couple of seconds. Oh, sorry, my internet is not great. I'm in a different place than I usually am. You can probably tell that from the background. And so there's a little glitchiness, so I apologize. I am giving it just a second to see who might join me this morning before I get started with the bulk of what we're talking about today. And here's, excuse me. Also, we'll mention that the sound may not be the quality that I usually have, in part because I am uh, in a different place than I'm usually at, and because of that, I forgot to pack my mic, so I don't have my fancy mic with me, but we will do just fine. So, hello, Marcia. Hello to anyone else who has joined. Um, I want to tell you, this is Nicole Havelka. I'm the host of Just Rest, Burnout Tips for Everyday Radicals, that podcast that just wrapped. And that is a space where I create a space and conversations for burned out change makers to get permission to rest without guilt and highlight the stories of people who are trying to live in just that way. And I want to celebrate. Last week, almost a week ago, I dropped the final episode of season 1, and I had a wrap party for that last week as well, which was an absolute delight. And it was so much fun to celebrate with you all. And for so many, a number of people came to the Zoom call, and we had a really lovely conversation. I did a little Just Rest trivia. I showed 3 of my favorite clips, and we had conversation about it. And I made some announcements in that smaller group that I'm going to make today. So hang out to the end of this video. I promise I'm not going to be here super long, and listen for the announcements that I'm going to make about my life and what's coming up, and invitation for you to participate in that as well. So, hey, Pastor Darrell, I'm so glad to hear you, see you. I keep seeing cute pictures of that amazing tiny human that you have there. So, Darrell, I'm so glad that you're joining us. Um, so back on track. I'm getting delighted by the people who are joining me here. Anyway, so I wrapped season 1 of Just Rest last week, and I'm getting ready to have a summer break. Let me tell you about what that summer break is. I will be dreaming, planning, and recording the next season of the podcast. That's true. I'm going to ask for your help to do that in just a moment. I also um, will be doing this. So the feed on my podcast will not be going completely silent. What will happen is that I am going to be dropping the full episodes of some podcasts where I have guested this past year. I have had the pleasure of guesting in some amazing places. And what's intriguing about that is that every time I was in a conversation, or on most of them being interviewed, you get to hear like a different side of me, maybe hear a different part of my story, because they ask different questions that draw different things out of me, which is really exciting. And I really want you to hear all of that. And there are 5 of them, I believe, and all of these folks have generously agreed to let me borrow their audio and put it into the feed. So about every other week, starting next week, you'll start getting a an episode from one of those places where I've already guested. So that's exciting for the summer. I also will probably be dropping in with a couple of solo episodes as well to keep you updated on what's happening in my life, because I'm going to give you some announcements about my life in just a second. Um, And I want you to keep up to date on that. And because it'll keep moving and changing and being exciting, I promise. And I also want to hear from you during this. I do hear off and on from people, in my circle who listen to the podcast. But if you've started listening, if you found me this way, or if you found me on Substack, I would love it if you would drop me a note. You can, on Substack, you can drop into my DMs, or on any of my socials, you can do that. Um, I would love for you to tell me about what do you want to hear in season 2 of Just Rest. So here's one idea in particular. I am really eager to talk with leaders of organizations that are trying to prioritize rest for both themselves and the teams that work for them. And so, if you know of an organization that is an organization that is doing just that, whether it's the tiniest of businesses or nonprofits, all the way up to larger organizations, like, I want to hear from that, because it's really easy for me and for all of us to fall into this trap of like criticizing the system and what it doesn't do. And I could go on that. I can do that for days and many seasons of the episode. There's plenty of content for that. However, I want to highlight the people who are really braving it and trying to do it differently. And so, if you could perhaps um, drop into my email, to my DMs, and if you have suggestions of people I should have on the podcast who can talk to that, who can talk about the challenges and the wonderful blessing and of adding that of trying to really prioritize rest in a team, in an organization. And then I'm also wondering if, after season 1, you're feeling like, Nicole, there's this burning question that I have, or you really missed something, or I really disagreed with you about something. Can you go deeper, have a deeper conversation about a piece of something about burnout, about rest, about what causes it? There's no end to the number of things I could talk about in our culture that simply does not prioritize rest. And so I'm eager to hear your questions. You can email me those, drop me in my DMs. My email is defythetrend@gmail.com. Please drop those in there, defythetrend@gmail.com. And I will also drop a link to SpeakPipe, which is a place where you can basically leave me a voice memo. You can also drop it in there, and I'll put that in the notes on Substack. And this live recording is going to go in my podcast feed shortly as well. So I will link that in the show notes, where you can find me, how you can email me, all that good stuff. So with that, here's the part that you've been waiting for. It's the update on my life, and this influences how things are going to happen here on Substack, if you're listening on Substack, and it's going to impact just how I'm doing things in general. And I've mentioned this here and there, but I'm making this a formal announcement today, which is at the end of August, beginning of September, I'm embarking on what I'm calling a year of expansion. And by that, I mean the primary reason, the primary way in which I am expanding is by going and living nomadically. I have done a couple of big things in recent weeks. I have told uh, my landlord that I'm not renewing my lease at the end of August. They already know that. I recently sold my car. There were many reasons for that, but I'm kind of ditching connection to most of my stuff. I still do have an apartment for now, so I still have stuff in it. Most of that stuff is going to be sold. Things that are irreplaceable, which are actually very few things, I'm going to store. But most things I am simply going to give away or sell. Um, if you're in central Illinois or thereabouts and like want dibs on something, like, let me know. I'll be I'll be selling it by the end of August. Um, and here's the thing about this year of expansion. So I'm living nomadically, probably mainly through the US, although I'm open to international destinations as well. I'm not sure I'm just not sure how affordable that will be for me, but I'm willing to try it out. I'll announce the first place that I'm going is that I'm going to be staying in Maine from in September and October. Then there's the possibility of me being in Arizona in November. That's not quite settled. But those are my first sort of destinations that I'm heading to. In most of these cases, or in both of those cases, I'd be staying with friends or people who have maybe either a home with a lot of space or an extra home that they're not using. So here's another way. Well, I'll tell you more about the ways you can support me in this in a moment. So that's how I'm doing this. And this is an experiment on a couple of different levels, both for me personally and for this podcast, the business, all of that jazz. So I really want to live a life detached from stuff. That's really what I'm trying to do. Heard me mention getting rid of things earlier. And this is an experiment, not just in finding where I might want to live next, although there's a little of that going on. What I'm really more interested in is answering the question, how do I want to live? I've lived in a lot of different places in the US, all of which I have genuinely loved and adored. However, I'm I've always moved for jobs because of, I've moved for them. And again, genuinely enjoyed them, always met new people who I loved and adored during those times. Uh, but I want to see if I'm untethered from needing to work in a particular location. And because of the digital nature of my job or my business, I don't need to stay in one particular place. I'm just really eager to know what that feels like, and how I might want to live. What stuff do I really want? But so this doesn't mean I'll never acquire more stuff again. It just means like this is a way of cleaning the slate and then really deciding what to bring back in. It's actually very similar questions as what I ask my clients when I'm coaching them through sabbaticals. I ask them usually, so what are you releasing and what are you embracing? And those are the two questions to ask yourself in these big transitions. So the second thing, and this really goes to the expansion, is that I want to meet new people. I want to be in new places and I want to do some networking for my business that really expands my reach. I have never thought of this business as one that is rooted completely geographically, though I'm not against that at all. It's perplexing to a lot of people, but because I do most of my work digitally, I don't really need to be rooted um, to one particular, local market, for lack of a better word. So what I will be doing is that I'm really excited about is like taking the opportunity to lead workshops at events that are happening in the areas where I'm going to be. And networking with new groups of people. So if like anywhere in the U.S., maybe even internationally, where they would really want to have a deep systemic conversation about burnout and rest and all of that good stuff, like let me know. I would love to be at your event. Like I said, I will be in New England, in Maine in particular, but I can get to probably any of those close by New England states anywhere in the fall. And I'd be happy to be part of, events or networking or just hanging out there. And then maybe again in Arizona in the fall. I haven't, later in the fall. That is not quite solidified. So those are locations I know of, but I'm eager to go other places as well in the US. I'm actually really eager to go to the places that I've never been. I've traveled to 30 something, 37, 38 states in the US. Now, not all of them I've spent great deals of time in because I used to travel a lot for work. But I would love to be in some of those places I've never been. And actually, several of those New England states I actually have not been. Maine is actually one of them. I've actually never been to Maine, so I'm adding a state that I'll actually live in for a couple of months. I'm really excited to get to explore new places. But I'm also excited to meet new people and maybe make connections to people where I can be of service, where I can be of help, and where I can, you know, where I can enjoy uh, meeting new people and really making connections and be of service and help organizations, helping individuals push back against grind culture, build teams that are healthy and sustainable, and that embrace a different way of living that says, we don't have to do it all to be successful. And I'm using air quotes there on the word successful. So thank you so much. So that's my big announcement. So here's some ways that you can help me. And those of you who are connected to me already will probably already have these available or know these. Um, you can help me by becoming a subscriber here on Substack. Um, a, a monthly subscription is only $7 a month, or you can pay for that annually at 70. If you wanted to go more and really support this year of expansion, become a founding member. People here on Substack are going to be getting a really wonderful bonus here during the year of expansion. You're going to have, I would say, a monthly ish, and it probably will be more frequent, but I'm not going to overpromise. Monthly ish video blog from me, or audio, special private audio video of what I'm learning, of where I'm going. Probably more things than that as I go along, but again, I don't want to overpromise. So you're going to be getting on Substack like the behind the scenes of this happening. You'll get to see probably the way I'm getting rid of all of my stuff and all of that jazz. Um, anyway, so I'm really excited about offering that to you. And again, there'll be some things that I'll put in the main feed of my podcast. But there's going to be a lot of things that I'll be both writing about and doing this, going live, or doing recordings for you. Just probably depends on my location and, the strength of my internet at any given moment, what I can do. But I will definitely be taking lots of notes and sharing that whole journey with you. And being a paid subscriber here on Substack will give you exclusive access to a lot of that behind the scenes stuff. And I really hope you support this effort in that way. If you're already on my email list, I'll probably be dropping you really soon a more extensive email on how to support this. One of the things I want to do to start this endeavor, and this is at the very beginning of September, is that I want to attend Radical Dharma Camp with Reverend Angel Kyoto Williams as the leader and curator of that space. I've been meditating with spaces that are curated by Reverend Angel for the last 5 years, maybe even 6 now. Um, I've been meditating with them and learning with them, and I want to go deeper. Radical Dharma Camp is delving deeper in our liberation through the work of anti-racism, and I want to go even deeper in that. And I think that it will serve this community and it'll serve my clients better. And so I'm going to be asking for some help to fund that. Um, it's a fairly expensive trip, mostly because it's a fairly remote part of New York that I would be going to, and the travel is just a little bit pricey. So I'm going to be asking for some support for that. So join me here on Substack if you haven't already. I would love that. Help to fund a year of expansion. And again, if you're on my email list or my Substack subscribers, you'll be hearing more about that really soon. And then message with podcast. You can send me notes of encouragement. I love those. And so there's a million ways that you can support. And again, you'll hear more of this, I promise, in a more refined way after this rough announcement that I'm doing today. And so I wanted to end this time together with some notes of gratitude. And many of you know that I crowdfunded for the launch of the Just Rest podcast. About almost a year ago, I was doing that, or at least I was announcing it a year ago about this time. And then over the course of the later summer and last fall, I had some fabulous people support me, both by being paid subscribers here and also from giving to the Just Rest crowdfunding effort. And I'm going to read all of their names. I've been off and on reading them. You can probably hear some of them uh, on some of the podcasts. But I'm going to read them all. I am eternally grateful. And honestly, reading their names and being grateful keeps scarcity mindset out of my mind. And that is such a healthier place to be. And maybe there's an episode of the podcast on that. But this gratitude practice has really been helpful and healing and just incredibly beneficial to me. And so I'm going to read the names of some fabulous people who gave, including Melanie Miller, Marcia Miller, who joined us on this call today, was a funder of Just Rest. Thank you so much. Anna Deshawn Rainey, Lisa Hart, Sarah Presley, Dale Ann Gray, Shelley Hovick, Ali Kreider, Kim Romaine, Nora Webster, Chris Lofermento, AJ Knight, Michelle Taylor, Linda Oceans, Damian Shiner, MK O'Haver, Jen Hegarty, Michelle Cherigian, Carla Grauberger, Kevin Chung, John Fry, Jenna Lee Beam, Evelyn Pachidi, Jennifer Gallus, Katie Haight Monick, Martha Lumley, and I should also shout out that Martha gave me some fantastic support in coaching me through the crowdfunding as well as being a giver, which was delightful. Thank you, Martha. Becky Sunday, Ginny Brown Daniel, Becky Mollenkamp, who is also the founder of the Feminist Podcast Collective, of which I am part. And I promise you, this podcast would not have existed without Becky and the fabulous humans there, some of whom I've been reading their names already without you knowing. Beth Geddert, Nicole Pickens, Ann Martin, Steve Havelka, that's my brother, Jonna Jensen, Julie Keck, and Jess King. And Julie Keck also gave me some fantastic support and advice on how to do the crowdfunding. Thank you, Julie, for always giving your time and expertise to me and believing in me since the absolute beginning. Juliana Tiawanda, also a longtime friend and cheerleader, Catherine Beckett, Ivy Beckwith, Lindy Boosted, who also gave me some great crowdfunding advice, Anissa Glazer Bacon. And the next few people I'm going to name are all part of the Rest Rebel Collective, AKA some paid Substack subscribers. Some of the people above are also Substack subscribers as well, but these are folks who have, some of whom joined before, but some who have joined on since the podcast. Tanya Jeffcoat and Harold Marrero are two of those who joined us since the podcast started. Caitlin Thompson, Rachel Formaro, Betsy Turner, and Diane Hunter. I am so, so, so grateful for all of you for your giving. And I thought it was great to leave on a note of a really long list of names. And if for some reason my notes were wrong, which they very well could be, and I missed you, this was not on purpose. I promise you that I am deeply grateful in my heart for you and for your giving. And your time and your support and your cheers and all of that good stuff and your listens. I should have mentioned earlier that the podcast, when I was just looking at the numbers, has well over 700 downloads for its first season. That's 12 episodes, have over 700 downloads, which is not bad at all for a baby podcast. And you all have made that happen. So thank you so much. I appreciate you. And I look forward to seeing more of you through this summer season of Just Rest and through the year of expansion, which starts in late August, early September. You'll be hearing more about that. Thank you so much for joining live, for Darrell and Marcia for joining me live. And I look forward to seeing more of you very, very soon. Have a wonderful rest of your day. And remember that you are worthy of rest.